Political risks of the ceasefire. How will Israeli and Hamas leadership cope? The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas presents both opportunities and significant risks for the leadership on both sides. Each faces political pressures that could influence their ability to maintain the fragile peace and navigate the aftermath of the agreement. So, there are some points we will discuss in short one by one and then in detail one by one. The first one is the Israeli leadership's political dilemma. Second one is political pressure from hardline groups in Israel. Third one is Hamas's internal struggles. Fourth one is regional influences on Hamas decision making. Fifth one is the risk of public backlash. Sixth one is pressure from international players. Seventh one is the ceasefire's long term viability and then conclusion. So let's start with the first one and we will discuss in detail so that you can understand it better. So here the first one, the Israeli leadership leadership's political dilemma. In Israel, the ceasefire faces intense scrutiny from right-wing factions who oppose making any concessions to Hamas. The Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, must balance the demands of these factions with the need to present the ceasefire as a success to the international community. Any perception that Israel is compromising its security could lead to political fallout, weakening Netanyahu's position. Furthermore, Israeli citizens, particularly those living near Gaza, may feel vulnerable and demand a more aggressive response to Hamas, complicating the government's stance. Second one is the political pressure from hardline groups in Israel. Hardline political figures, particularly from settler communities or the far right, often view ceasefires as capitulations to terrorism. This can fuel a narrative that Israel should maintain military pressure on Hamas rather than negotiating. Any perceived weakness in adhering to the ceasefire could result in a loss of support from these key political bases, leaving the Israeli government vulnerable to internal dissent and challenges from more hawkish parties. Third one is Hamas internal struggles. Hamas too faces internal challenges following the ceasefire. The leadership in Gaza must contend with hardline factions that are deeply committed to resistance against Israel, who may view any cooperation or concession, such as releasing Israeli prisoners or pausing attacks, as a betrayal of their mission. These factions could create instability within Hamas, potentially leading to splits or challenges to the existing leadership. Additionally, Hamas is under constant pressure from Gaza's population, who suffer under the blockade and ongoing economic hardships, and they may grow impatient with what some see as symbolic gestures other than tangible improvements in their lives. Fourth one is the regional influences on Hamas decision making. Hamas is heavily influenced by regional actors such as Iran, Qatar, and Egypt. These countries play significant roles in facilitating ceasefire talks, and their support for Hamas gives the group some leverage. However, if regional dynamics shift or if these countries apply pressure on Hamas to de escalate further, the leadership might face accusations of compromising too much, weakening its standing. Conversely, if regional actors push for continued resistance, it may undermine the ceasefire and escalate hostilities once again. Fifth one is the risk of public backlash. Both Israeli and Palestinian leaders risk public backlash if they are seen as giving too much in the ceasefire. In Israel, the failure to ensure long term security or perceived concessions to Hamas could lead to protests and political instability. For Hamas, failure to deliver tangible benefits such as easing the blockade or securing economic relief for Gaza could lead to unrest and undermine their leadership's credibility among the Palestinian people. So 6-1 is the pressure from international players. International pressure to uphold the ceasefire and pursue long-term peace deals will also weigh heavily on both sides. For Israel, failing to negotiate seriously on broader issues like territorial disputes or the blockade could prompt condemnation from the global powers, especially those advocating for Palestinian rights. Similarly, Hamas international supporters may push the group to ensure that any peace deal benefits the Palestinian cause and does not compromise their strategic objectives. And now, seventh one is the ceasefire's long-term viability. Both Israel and Hamas face a critical question: how to navigate the aftermath of the ceasefire and avoid the cycle of violence from repeating. For Israel, ensuring its security while engaging in peace talks requires walking at fine line, especially with the threat of extremist elements challenging the ceasefire. For Hamas, managing its dual role as both a political entity and a militant group, freedom fighter, will require carefully balancing its public commitments to resistance with any compromise made during the ceasefire. Failure to do so could result in a loss of support and leadership challenges. Now we'll discuss the conclusion. Here a delicate political balance. The ceasefire presents political risks for both Israeli and Hamas leadership. For Israel, the challenge is managing domestic political pressures while maintaining security, while Hamas must contend with the hardline factions and the demands of its population. Both sides will have to carefully navigate these political landmines to ensure that the ceasefire holds and that any future steps lead toward a more stable peace. Thank you for watching.